Kids, get your popcorn out.
Let me tell you the story of
The space Viking, Thor Odinson. Oh, spoke too soon.
Jane?
You are not like the other gods of kill, because I have something worth fighting for.
Thor: Love and Thunder is the fourth Thor film in the MCU, and the second one to be directed by Taikai Watiti, and follows Thor embarking on a quest for inner peace, only to have his retirement interrupted by Gorr the God Butcher, a galactic killer seeking the extinction of all gods. To combat this threat, Thor enlists the help of his old companions, including his ex-girlfriend Jane Foster. I've mentioned this before in a previous video, but I am a big fan of Taika's directing style, so it should be no surprise when I say Ragnarok was one of my favorite MCU movies. So yeah, I was looking forward to this film, especially since Taika's films have been pretty consistent in quality recently, with Jojo Rabbit being a personal favorite of mine, and Ragnarok as previously mentioned. Unfortunately, I feel this film might be one of the weaker MCU movies like the first two Thor films. The biggest problem holding this back is the film's weird tonal problems. Just like Taika's previous films and Ragnarok, the movie is aiming to be a goofy, bizarre comedy. But unlike his other movies where he made sure to have a good balance of humor and drama, Love and Thunder seemed to be completely focused on its humor despite the story having some pretty dark themes, like cancer, the kidnapping of children, death, and the genocide of gods, creating a more serious premise that is never given the dramatic weight or scenes it should be given, because now the central focus of nearly every scene are a bunch of absurd jokes or quips. This was also the first Marvel project in a while where the stakes were shockingly low, and never once in the film, despite all the action and dark themes going on, did it feel like there were any consequences or sacrifices for these characters. There wasn't a lot of tension during the action scenes where I felt like the characters were in any danger, because thanks to the humor overshadowing any drama, it gave off the sense that Thor and his team were going to be fine and walk away from the action sequences scratchless. There was even a scene midway through the film where it looked like a major character was brutally killed, only for them to be revealed alive in a supposedly humorous way. And it only takes away from the tension this film should have. And again, this wasn't a problem in Ragnarok despite that being a more goofy film, and there was a large number of sacrifices in that film that played a role in Thor's character for the rest of the MCU. And by the end, when some characters did die, it was hard to feel the emotional impact because it felt like they would be fine in some way. And then one of them did turn out to be fine in a post-credit scene. It just gives off the sense that the majority of these risks done by the characters are meaningless in the long run. And on top of the jokes killing the tone, they're a pretty mixed bag in general. I got a couple of chuckles and outright laughed a few times, but there's a strange writing and comedic timing in this film where the majority of jokes feel forced into the scenes they're included in, with most of them being more bizarre and out of place than funny, and don't fit with the adventurous nature this film is going for. And as a ton of reviewers have probably talked about, there are these two screaming goats in the film, and they use that gag over 15 times, and it gets tiring fast. However, I'll give the film this. Just like what Multiverse of Madness was for Sam Raimi, this feels and looks like a Taika film. This is one of those rare MCU films that have a great sense of personality in terms of directing style, and you could instantly be able to tell who's the visionary behind the camera. There's a great sense of visual presentation throughout the film, during a couple of the action scenes and the destinations visited by the characters, which were very well designed and full of creativity, despite the horrendous CGI in the movie. The film itself actually has a large focus on the gods in the MCU, and there's a ton of world building dedicated to showing their role in the Marvel Universe. I also think the moments where the film parodies rom-coms through Thor and Jane's relationship, or when it wants to have scenes that embrace the more bizarre side of comic books, is when the film works best, and there are a couple of great jokes that come out of those scenes, like Thor's love relationships as mentioned, and a strong run gag about Stormbreaker and Thor's hammer, although in all honesty, that subplot just reminded me of this.
I'm a what? Nothing. What? You're great.
And even though I was hard on the jokes, as I said, there were a good amount that did land decently enough for them to work. Although if I had to name the biggest positive of the film, it has to be Christian Bale as Gorr the God Butcher. Not only does Bale go hard in portraying how bloodthirsty and vengeful he is, but he's given a great motivation, personality, and backstory. Something that most Marvel villains lack, and it really lets him stand out from the other MCU antagonists. However, for some reason, Gorr isn't in the film all that much, and we only get to see him be the threatening killer he is in the opening scene and near the end. Other than Bale, Chris Hemsworth killed as Thor as he always has. and even if he doesn't have the best films in the MCU, he remains one of those characters I'm always excited to see more of when he shows up in the franchise. Although with that said, I didn't really like Natalie Portman's portrayal of Jane in this movie, as it felt so inconsistent with the way she acted in the previous Thor films, acting more of a comedic character even though she's written to be facing a powerful conflict this time around, and even at that, felt like she was always holding back in her performance. On the other hand, Russell Crowe brought out a fun twist through his performance as Zeus, and the scenes with him were definitely another instant where the humor landed due to the comedic energy and absurdity he's able to bring. Taika Waititi also continued to make Korg the fun sidekick he is, and Tessa Thompson was able to stay consistent with her great portrayal as Valkyrie. Now, I do have a couple of extra thoughts on this film, but to get into them, I have to go into spoiler territory. Click to this time frame of the video if you want to avoid spoilers. Even though the drama with the concept could have been handled better, I do respect how Jane's cancer did not tie back into her exposure to the Aether in Thor: The Dark World, rather a family history. I felt that made her conflict feel a lot more natural rather than forced through magical concepts that would potentially create plot holes. Like how that post-credit scene with her and Valhalla contradicted the Afterlife Moon Knight setup. Although one concept I was mixed on were the Guardians of the Galaxy just disappearing by the time the second act came along. I understand that this is supposed to be Thor's movie, and I was fine with them not playing a big role, but I found it a little strange how they just set them up to be a major part of Thor's future journey at the end of Endgame, only for them to drop that after the first few minutes. It just felt a little off how they go completely unmentioned after their appearances in the opening, and for a while I thought they would return for the third act only for that to not happen. Another personal complaint I have is how after strange years of absence in these films, Sif finally returned only for her to immediately disappear after losing an arm and not show up anywhere else in the film from there. Thor: Love and Thunder might just be the weirdest film in the MCU to date, which simultaneously could have helped it stand out thanks to Taika's unique directing, which shines for the most part, strong performances, and one of the best MCU villains to date, but is undermined by a tonally incoherent script that refuses to focus on the darker themes it set up in favor of a mixed bag of bizarre humor. If you're mixed on or don't like Taika's directing style, I would recommend just skipping this film, as you could tell he was given more creative freedom with how bizarre it was. And if you do like Taika's directing, there's a good chance you'll either love this film for its humor and heart, or be disappointed by how it takes away from the perfect balance of drama and comedy he is known for. Either way, this definitely won't be a film for everyone, and will most likely go down as one of the most divisive movies in the MCU, similar to how the previous projects in Phase 4 have collected some mixed reviews in recent memory. If you are going to see this, just go in expecting a film on the more lighthearted comedic side of Marvel films, rather than one that completely focuses on action or emotion. Although with how consistent and quality Taika's films have been, it's a little hard not to be slightly disappointed by the end result, and how it does not leave the same impact his other films have. I'm giving Thor: Love and Thunder a 6.5 out of 10. So those are my thoughts on Thor: Love and Thunder. What did you think of it? Did you like it? Were you mixed on? Would you want to see more MCU films directed by Taika or more Thor content? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching. I've got a review for Jordan Peele's Nope coming up soon, so be sure to subscribe, like the video, and ring that notification bell to be notified for any upcoming reviews.
Let's see who you are. I take off your disguise. And flick!
Oh,
You flick too hard, damn it!
Shall we help him? I mean, eventually.